I don't care. I know you need to find fault in everyone else to make yourself feel okay. So find it in me.
Oh, go to hell, man!
But you don't have the right to push him.
It's not his fault. He's stupid. He's a liability.
He makes us laugh, and he loves us. How is that a liability? All you care about is intelligence and competence.
Not sure I appreciate this defense.
He has sadness, but he's the only one of you who doesn't hate himself. So I don't care if he's stupid.
You think I'm stupid?
Yes. Forget.
What's going on, my beautiful YouTubers here at Tully Television? Bart here. And today we're going to be getting into a movie review. But before we get into all that even, I want to thank you for stopping by, liking, commenting, sharing, all that beautiful YouTube stuff. I hope that today is the day we earn that subscription, if we haven't already. Our job here is to entertain, make you think, make you mull over, and all that stuff. So if we bring any emotion to you, any thoughts, hit the subscribe button, or at least hit the like button, or at least comment. Interact with us so we can get to more people. I like to grow this community even more, because together only can we go straight to the moon, baby. But today we're going to be getting into my thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which was just released on Disney Plus this past weekend. And for most of the people that have seen it, I'm sure they're going to have already seen it or seen it this weekend. I didn't go to the theaters because it's just timing and stuff, and I was okay with waiting until the release on Disney Plus. And I will say this movie was the best movie that Marvel has put out since Spider-Man. The last Spider-Man movie that just passed with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. And I'd have to say that this has definitely been one of the better projects Marvel has put out in phases 4 or 5 since, again, the Spider-Man movie. I was a big fan of the Werewolf by Night project, by the way. That was very well done. So that's definitely up there. So those 3 projects, this project, Werewolf by Night, and Spider-Man actually might be my top 3 on an overall scale of it being done fantastic, right? Then Moon Knight maybe here and there. But I'm getting off the beaten path of wanting to speak about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, written and directed by James Gunn, Chris Pratt, Crispy Rat? Yeah, Crispy Rat. Star-Lord Peter Quill. Chris, if you see this, for some reason, I'm only playing. I like you, man. And again, if this guy happens to be watching this, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. Chukwudi Iwuji as the High Evolutionary. Bradley Cooper as the voice of Rocket. Palm Clementif as Mantis. Dave Bautista as Drax. Bautista. Karen Gillan as Nebula. Vin Diesel as Groot. Maria Bakalova as the voice of Cosmo. Sean Gunn as Kraglin. Will Poulter as Warlock. Zoe Saldana as Gamora. And Rocket's friends are Floor, Teefs, and Lila, who he befriended while being the property, so to speak, of the High Evolutionary. I think that this is a perfect ending to this incarnation of the Guardians team. We start all, and we kind of bring everything together as far as any threads for the members of this Guardians of the Galaxy team. We see our first look at Adam Warlock and, where his role is going to be. We see Rocket's history finally, his origins in connection with the High Evolutionary. Basically, the High Evolutionary is a villain who tries to perfect civilizations, try to perfect evolutionary traits within certain species, trying to be basically a geneticist turned up to 11. Well, it's turned up to 11, which is one more than 10. And Rocket, the team learns kind of what happened to Rocket a little bit because Warlock, under the direction of the High Evolutionary, because his people, right, the golden people that the Guardians of the Galaxy came across in Volume 2, they were working with the High Evolutionary. He's one of their species. And they made Adam Warlock to go attack the Guardians, and that first initial conflict with them, he kind of messed them up, you know what I mean? And injured Rocket so badly that if they attempted to do surgery on him, the kill switch in his chest will go off and automatically kill him. And so if you do the surgery, you kill him. If you don't do the surgery, you kill him. And so they have to find out where Rocket got these pieces put into him, like where that was done, and it leads them back to the High Evolutionary and Counter Earth. And it's really, wow, I have to say the High Evolutionary really bought it as far as the villain is concerned. His main motivation was to be bringing perfection to everything because he found himself to be imperfect. Because at the end of the movie, we see that his face has been horribly scarred due to something, and that has led him on this quest for perfection and putting perfection everywhere else. Because at one point, he even said that God doesn't exist. That's why he had to step in. So this is how highly he thinks of himself. In the comic books, the High Evolutionary is the one that helped create Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. That's how it is in the comic books currently. They're not Magneto's children. So I don't know if there'll ever be a reference to that with Mount Wundagore and Scarlet Witch in the future. Maybe, but I don't think that is ever going to happen because they kind of made Hydra in place of the High Evolutionary, so to speak, in a way, with their experimenting on her as opposed to him. But I thought that this villain was very well done. Supposedly he's alive still at the end of this movie, even though when Kraglin and Cosmo came to save the rest of the Guardians, they basically crashed nowhere into his flying headquarters, and again, he seems to be alive somewhere, according to James Gunn. So there is a chance of this character coming back, but we see a lot of growth. We see a lot of each member of the team gets their own little spotlight with their powers and with interactions and jokes and everything. James Gunn has done a really good job with this group of heroes of ours, and it's kind of sad to see them all go their separate ways in a way. Because Peter Quill finally comes to a realization this Gamora is not his Gamora anymore, as she's been basically leading and had joined the Ravengers and her time in the present. Because again, this is the Gamora from 2004, so to speak, and Peter has accepted that this is not her, the Gamora that he knows, but Gamora has come to the realization she's more than what she thought she was, and was again taught that lesson by Peter, even though that this time they didn't really fall in love. But you could see at the end of this movie, she could see why the other Gamora fell in love with him. That overall he's just harmless. He's just a goof, right? He don't mean nothing by. He thinks he's all hot shit and everything, and all guys think they're hot shit when they're really not. You know what I mean? We think we're cooler when we're not. We're just lame-os, but we're, in our brains, we're like the Fonz, right? Hey! In our brains, we're all Norman Reedus, super cool, bro. But we're not. And, Gamora was willing to put up with that goofiness from him, much like Mrs. Tully Television puts up with my goofiness and so forth and so on. So it was good to see them coming to an understanding of that near the end of the movie. Also near the end of the movie, there's a bunch of children that the High Evolutionary was keeping captive for a new colony that he was trying to do. Nebula had convinced Drax to stay with her to raise these children because she realized what his true purpose was, which wasn't to be a destroyer, but to be a father. And he decided to do that. Mantis decided to go on her own way with those obelisk creatures from Volume 2. She had gained a bond with them, and they helped the Guardians actually escape near the end of the movie. And she's going to go do her own adventures and traveling on her own, breaking up the hilarious Drax and Mantis comedy duo. But we'll always have the holiday special, guys. But I think, and then Rocket is going to be the new captain, so to speak, the new leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Adam Warlock, during this movie, realized that when Groot had saved him from certain death at one point, he realized that there's more to life than, again, himself being a destroyer. He's more than what he was made for, and he winds up joining the team as well near the end. The Kraglin and Cosmo interaction during the movie was funny because Kraglin near the beginning of the movie had called Cosmo a bad dog, but he kept running with it even though he didn't really feel she was a bad dog. He just was messing with her until finally near the end she does something and he's like, "'Cause she's a good dog," and she jumps up and she's like, "I knew you didn't think I was a bad dog." And, does the Kraglin chuckles to himself. So that was a nice interaction to see. Peter Quill goes back home to Earth and kind of reintroduces himself, re-meets his grandfather, and the grandfather knew immediately it was him. And apparently Star-Lord will be coming back down the road himself, according to the end credits. But right now it seems like he's going to reacclimate himself back on Earth, spend some time with the family that he hasn't been with because he was too busy running away from the pain of his mother's passing. So everyone seems to... everyone had gathered around Rocket to save his life, and in realizing in doing that there was things they still wanted to do before their time was up, and decided that now was the time to do it instead of continuously waiting. And Peter, again, had went from like being a drunkard in the beginning of the movie to kind of realizing that if it wasn't for his selfishness, his drunkenness, that Rocket may not have been put in the position he was put in initially, and that's why he wants to remotivate himself into being a more productive person, right? And I think that this movie was a really good send-off. I'd have to give this a definite 8 out of 10. I thought that action was pretty decent. I thought that the jokes landed more than they didn't. I thought that everyone got to shine in this movie, being it was the last movie, because Batista himself even said that this is his last go around with Drax, probably for quite some time, if ever, because he says he's 50, man, and it's really hard for him to try to stay in that consistent shirtless state, you know what I mean, and looking good at the same time. He's only human. And maybe some of these other people are just really ready to move on. But it's good to see that there's still a Guardians team that has Rocket, that has Groot, Cosmo, Kraglin, Adam Warlock, and one of the High Evolutionaries people that he had, that young girl that was running in that circle thing. She's also part of the Guardians team. They didn't really shine too much of a light on her, but I'm assuming that once the Kang Dynasty movie comes, or the next appearance of the Guardians, that they'll show a little bit more of her. I enjoyed Adam Warlock's character. I thought that they could have given him a little bit more, but it was an interesting character, him learning to grow and realize that, maybe I don't know everything, even though I got all these powers. I just think that this movie was great. I think that you should go check it out. It's one of the more fun projects the MCU has put out since Endgame. One of the better movies since Spider-Man. And I just have been disappointed with Marvel and the MCU since Endgame for the most part, with a couple little gems here and there, and this is one of those rare gems they put out in the last few years. And I'm very optimistic with where these characters are going that we have left, and I hope to see more of them. But you let me know down below what you think of Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and until next time, peace, Snookums.
Everybody!